Welcome to the Howie Games, a man that in a short period at Test cricket level has made an enormous impression on Australia and world cricket, but as you find his journey, it was a long, long path to that magnificent day at the MCG and what he's done ever since. Scotty Boland, welcome to the Howie Games. How are you, great man?
Very good, thank you.
So, the challenge here, I've texted several of your teammates to get background on you. The challenge here is they've all said he is the most modest person you'll meet. And Scotty, I'm going to be honest with you, that's not going to cut it on this podcast because you need to talk about yourself for an hour and a half. So how are you feeling about the process, about talking about yourself when you naturally are a man that prefers to put the spotlight on others?
Yeah, I did wake up during the night last night sort of wondering what I was going to talk about on here, but sort of kept me awake for a couple of hours. But hopefully I've got some good enough content.
We will be okay. A couple of your teammates also said, quiet but very funny. Give him 3 beers, gets louder and funnier. We did think about rolling a 6-pack into the studio, but it is only 10:30 in the morning and you're about to embark on the Ashes.
Yes.
We'll get into cricket and everything, but I've got various thoughts, but I'd love to know your thoughts, mate, and it's great to have you here. I'd love to know your thoughts on why, and this is where you have to put the modesty aside, why you think your story has resonated so deeply with Australian cricket fans, sports fans and world cricket fans.
There's probably a few things. Like, coming through cricket, I didn't really go the traditional pathway. I didn't play any like Victorian under 18s or any Australian stuff when I was a junior. So I've sort of done it a different way. I've come through Premier Cricket, started at Frankston when I was 18, then got my first Vic contract at 22. So I sort of did it a bit differently than a lot of guys that do it nowadays. And then, I'm probably not, I'm not Pat Cummins who's 6'5" and fit and all that stuff. I'm, probably a bit more, I haven't got the body of an AFL footballer, I'd say that.
Funny, one of your teammates, actually, you tell me which teammate said this. He's like me. As a young fella, he was a rather big boy.
Yeah.
Which do you reckon said that?
Jeez. Not sure.
Uzi.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So he described his early physical stature to be similar to yours.
Yeah, probably pretty close to it, yeah.
And life now, you're about to head off on the Ashes. When this goes to air, the Ashes will be in full swing. How have you spent your last period since you got back from India and stepping away from the cricket bubble?
Yeah, it's been a nice little break. Like, as you know, India's so full on that coming home was, I was looking forward to coming home after a couple of months of a pretty tough tour. So I came home, played 2 Shield games. We, unfortunately lost the Shield final, and then I really wanted to have a month of just getting away from cricket, spending time with the family. Like, hadn't seen them for 2 months while I was away, but trying to spend as much time with the girls as possible. And then sort of had three or 4 weeks of really good prep to get ready for the World Test Championship and the Ashes. So I think so far my prep's been how I'd want it to go, which is really good. We've had amazing facilities at the Junction for this time of year. We've the curator's right up a centre wicket, so it doesn't get much better than that when you're trying to prepare for a big series.
Tell me about your girls, ages, names.
So I've got Charlie, who's 4, Andy, who's 2, and they're growing up so much. 2 months away seems like forever, and sort of get a little bit of FaceTime from them at the start when I'm away, but as the trip gets longer and longer, they sort of, I don't know, quick high on the FaceTime and they're off doing their own thing. So
how do you
does make it hard.
How do you deal with that time away? You're obviously a loving father and husband. How do you deal with it, which has become part of your life in the last 2 years, I guess?
The last 2 years I've had 6 weeks in Pakistan, 5 or 6 weeks in Sri Lanka, and then another 8 weeks in India. Add on the Australian summer where you're not home too much.
So it's getting close to probably a third of your 2-year-old's life.
Yeah.
So how's that sit with you?
It's hard, and I say to my wife all the time, like, I hate going away on these cricket trips. Like, I really enjoy the cricket, and but I sort of dread going away. I sort of get a bit of a feeling in my stomach in the week leading up to when I know I'm flying away that I'm like, oh, geez, I'm going to miss the girls again. So, so far, the hardest thing about playing international cricket has just been away from family.
And is it a discussion point amongst, like, there's a lot of young fathers in the group, is it a discussion point? Like, do you help each other get through? I've just come back from the IPL for 3 weeks, and the guys that are there for the full 8 weeks, the Danny Morrisons, the Ian Bishops, the Simon Dools, I watch the way they interact and how they immediately know their mates might be having a bit of a quiet day and help each other through it. Is it like that with the team?
Yeah, it is. There's so many kids in the squad now, and even the Vic squad. Some of the younger guys have sort of grown up and getting married and having kids. So, it is something that we speak about all the time. We want to know how everyone's kids are going, how their families are functioning while we're away, because it is hard on our partners and kids especially. So. But when we do have that time where we can have a partner period or the families fly over, it's the best part of the summer.
And how do you go about juggling? Like, do you play better cricket when your family's there with you, or some of us find when we're away with work, family is a godsend. Other times it can interfere with preparation for work. Your preparation is key. When are you at your best?
Yeah, I'd probably say when my family's there, I'm at my best. Even though my prep can take a little bit of a back seat, but at 34, I know what I need to do to be right to play on the day. So, I don't really. The kids obviously try and interfere, but they don't interfere too much in my preparation.
It's funny, isn't it, how the kids, like mine are older than yours, 13, 11, and the period of time I just spent away in India, like FaceTime at the start, they're all over it, and then a week in, I know my young bloke's at home by himself while my daughter and wife are off in netball. I get him on FaceTime and I tell him I love him, I miss him, and the first thing he says, "Oh, how's Finji going?" Yeah. just leaves you a little bit flat. Yeah, like, in some ways, FaceTime is the best thing in the world. Other ways, it's the hardest thing in the world, I find. What about you?
Yeah, same. I find it like even with them being 2 and 4, they sort of fight over who gets to hold the phone, stuff like that. So, like, you want to see them, then they're crying, and you see, like, the 2-year-old's holding the phone, you see the top of her head, and that's it. Like, stuff like that. Like, there's things you'll remember for a long time.
So you're progressing along, but I guess no one really thinks they're going to become a professional athlete. So as you're going through school, what was the great Scotty Boland plan for life?
I always wanted to be a PE teacher.
PE teacher?
Yeah.
Mr. Boland?
Grade 9.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have done a bit of that study, but sort of it's taken a back seat the last 10 years.
Yeah,
so
I bet.
I probably need to get back to that at some stage.
So you played, and I say I don't often make stats, but I've just to illustrate your story. So you played for Parkdale Cricket Club.
Yep.
And then you go to Frankston.
Yep.
Who got you from... So when you were at Parkdale, were you playing against men?
Yeah, so I started playing senior cricket at about 16.
With success too?
Well,
I wrote it down here, Scotty.
Yeah.
We're first 2, so here we go. Left Parkdale, 31 wickets at 12.35.
Yeah, it's good.
That's good numbers.
I'm happy with that.
That's good numbers.
Yeah.
So then you go to Frankston.
Yeah.
What's your initial thought when you get to... So for those that might not be aware listening, we're now going to a club that if you're in the seniors, in the first, you're one step below representing your state. So it's a much better standard of cricket. What was it like when you rolled in there?
Yeah, different. The training was different, much higher quality and intensity than I was probably used to. I went there at 18. Our coach at Parkdale at the time was Cameron Atkins, and he was he played at Frankston years ago, and he sort of suggested to have a crack at it. So I thought I might as well. I'm only 18, just got my license. So yeah, drive down to Frankston on a Tuesday, Thursday night, go to the Saxon Indoor Centre down there, and wheel away. So I probably went down thinking I was a batter. I used to bat top order at Parkdale, and we had a good bowling lineup, so I didn't bowl that much.
So you still went down there as a batsman?
Yeah.
At age 18?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then first game, I played in the seconds.
Yep.
I can't remember runs or wickets or anything like that, but I reckon I was batting at like 7, opening the bowling straight away. So
Right.
as soon as I got down there, they sort of identified that my bowling was probably going to be my strongest suit. And I remember the first game, so I hadn't really had that much of a run up or anything like that, and I bowled like 7 or 8 no balls, and we never played the free hits at Parkdale, so
Oh, no.
had the free hits. So yeah, coach wasn't happy, and then that Tuesday night we're out in the oval, running out my run up, getting it right.
You played 6 first grade games in your first 2 seasons with 3 wickets.
Yep.
Second grade, you took 37 at 18.6. But, and I say this respectfully, and we touched on it, you had to change your physical shape to step up to the next standard of cricket. And how's that message delivered to a kid? It's a careful message you need to deliver, I guess.
Yeah, I was probably about 20 at this stage when I had a really good season in the seconds. I reckon I sort of went in for maybe one day of a game in the first, but I'd have thought like I was putting up pretty good numbers that I probably deserved a crack at some stage. And Nick Jaw was our coach at that stage, and I sort of said to him might have been even a pre-season or end of season function that like, what do I got to do to play in the first? And he said, you need to drop some weight, you need to get fitter and stronger.
Right.
If you do that. He goes, if you drop 10 kilos by round 1, I'll pick you.
Really?
So I was like, righto. And he's like, I'll help you. He saw a dietitian at Cricket Victoria, and he sort of had a rough diet plan for me to follow, and I followed it and did what he asked. And then, first round 1 he picked me. And then, I haven't played a game in second grade since.
So you lost the weight, no problem?
Not no problem, but
right.
We got it done.
Okay, I just want to take you back at one stage. When you burst onto the scene at test level, a photo started floating around with you and Warnie.
Yeah. And
I can still remember the King when someone showed it to him out the back of commentary. And he's like, oh, yeah, Scotty, we did this and we did that. And taught him everything he knows. Warnie was a great one at anointing the next champion. And I remember thinking, I don't reckon Warnie's got any recollection at all of these photos. Great photos. Tell us the story how it came to pass. Great photos.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a Herald Sun competition that I'm not sure who sponsored it.
Oh, it was a comp?
Yeah, so I entered this competition through the Herald Sun, and I remember I was at school at St. Bede's might have been like year 9. I got mum called up school and was like, oh, you've won a competition with Shane Warne. And I was like, oh, shit. So we ended up, a few weeks went by, I took a day off on whatever day it was, met him at the Junction Oval in St Kilda. He had his whites on. We went to the nets.
Were you in awe?
Yeah.
Being a Victorian kid?
Yeah. It's like, that's Shane Warne.
Yeah.
And then so my family was there as well. We all came along, and he was like, right, I put the pads on, I'm going to bowl to you. And it would have been an hour. He was bowling to me in the nets, telling me to hit him here and hit him there and all that stuff. And he's shown me how he bowled all his balls. And, it was like just recently this year, Mum found the video recording tape of it.
Right.
And we went to Officeworks or somewhere and got it put onto a USB so we can actually watch it.
How good's that?
Yeah, and so I was like watching it brought back memories of the day. It was stinking hot, and he's in his whites, he's dripping sweat, but he was so generous with his time. Like, he went above and beyond what he had to do for the winner of this competition, some 15-year-old kid from Parkdale.
Wow.
And he said, I'm playing a Shield game on the next week. Come down on this day at this time, and I'll introduce you to like Matthew Hayden and some of the Queensland guys. So, to his word, me and my brother rocked up, and he took us in. Got to meet these guys who were playing cricket for Australia, but at the time I was playing a Shield game at the Junction. Huh. So he was so generous.
That USB, is that just video or is there audio?
There's audio as well.
Right. We need to get some of that, and we need to play some of that on the podcast.
Yes.
I get Tommy on the case there. That is Outstanding. So you're flying along at Frankston. You're playing grade cricket. How are you supporting yourself? You working?
Yeah, I was working. I was working at a pub in Mordialloc or
Right.
Doyle's Hotel.
Okay. What was your role?
Just working behind the bar.
Right.
A few days a week. I worked every Friday night before cricket, finish at midnight, go home, get a few hours sleep, and then up to play cricket for Frankston the next day.
So if I said to you in, 2009, 2010, 20 games in the first then, 27 wickets at 27. So you're becoming an established bowler in district cricket. If I say you're in 2009 and you're working on a Friday night and I rolled in and said, mate, give it 7 years, you'll be playing for Australia in white ball cricket.
Yeah.
How far off are you in your mind? Is that even a consideration?
No, I'm not even thinking about that.
Not at all?
I probably was still feeling uncomfortable about my spot in the Frankston team at that stage.
So as you begin to progress at Frankston, what's happening to your bowling? So we talked about 27 wickets at 27 and then 10, 11 to see the progression. Now 33 wickets at 25 for Frankston. You get a rookie contract to Victoria at age 22. What is happening to your bowling before you get to Victoria in those Frankston seconds, fringe player Frankston, always going to be playing at Frankston? What's happening to your bowling at that point?
Well, not being someone who grew up bowling, I think I was able to pick up things a bit quicker than what you would when you're 16 or 17.
Okay.
I had a guy called Darren Groves who's taken 500 wickets for Frankston. He was our opening bowler, and we probably bowled pretty similar. We're both sort of seam bowlers, don't try and swing the ball too much. And then obviously had Nick Jewell, who would stand at first slip, and he was probably the biggest influence in my career at that stage. And I remember there was a day, so it would have been early on in my career in the ones that I was bowling a really good over to Neil Schlittler from Paran.
Yep.
And he played a miss at a couple, and I had one ball to go, and I remember Julie ran down because he thought I was going to chase and try and get a wicket, and he's just like, "Do not chase this bloke. Just bowl another good ball, and you need to bowl. You need to be able to bowl 6 out of 6. You want to play up higher."
Yeah.
And he ran back to slip, and I didn't get him out the next ball, but did what he did, and I think I've still learnt that now that I don't really try and chase wickets. I try and build up the pressure for either me to get a wicket or for someone to get a wicket at the other end. I don't really like the scoreboard leaking too much. Which
has been, a hallmark of your test career. So you get a rookie contract to Victoria. What's it like? We talked about walking into Frankston as a reasonably quiet chap, as we've established. When you walk into Victoria, who are the big guns? And are you feeling comfortable? Are you feeling edgy? Are you feeling out of your depth?
Yeah, not feeling comfortable, probably feeling edgy and a bit out of my depth. Like, I'm walking in the change room, there's Brad Hodge and Cameron White, Dave Hussey.
Big name cricketers.
Yeah, and then even from the bowling front, there's Shane Howard was still there, Peter Siddle, young James Pattinson,
wow.
Clint Mackay, John Hastings. Like, I'm walking into a team that's dominant at that time, and yeah, I'm just a young guy trying to impress people in the nets.
Who, I'll have a guess that it was Johnny Hastings, but who took you under their wing?
Yeah, John Hastings. Yeah,
the big Duke.
Sure. Yeah,
he's from down that way as well, isn't he? Peninsula way.
Yeah. He was. Yeah, took me under his wing pretty early, and yeah, he's taught me a lot about cricket and even off the field, just sort of try and get away from cricket as much as possible.
So your first Shield game, 25 overs, 2 for 92 across 2 innings.
Yeah.
What's your memories of your first Shield game? So again, illustrating, it's not like you've come on here and blown them off the park.
No. I remember, I think we batted first. I remember batting at the G facing Nathan Remington, who was like really good state cricket at the time. And I was like, geez, I'm out of my depth here. And then even bowling, like WA had a pretty good side. I reckon I got Marcus North out in both innings, caught behind.
Oh, test cricketer, that's handy.
Yeah, caught behind, so that gave me a bit of confidence. But yeah, only 1 wicket in each inning, so yeah, didn't shoot the lights out.
Are you a full-time cricketer at this point when you're on a rookie contract?
Yes.
So what's a rookie contract worth playing for Victoria when we're talking 2011?
Yeah, I reckon I was on about 40 grand.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not like you can be throwing cash all around the place.
Nah, and as a rookie, you don't have to be at every session. Like, it's sort of designed that if you want to still work or you're still at uni or some young guys now are still at school, you don't have to be at every session. But I was like, I'm going to give this a good crack. I'm coming every session. I can just work it outside of the cricket hours.
So was hard work a big key plank to your success, do you reckon?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I'm not as talented as a lot of other bowlers going around. I've grown up in the last probably 10 years bowling with James Pattinson a lot of the time, and he's like swing the ball both ways, bowls 145 Ks, can bat, gun fielder. Like, I'm not like as gifted as him, so I've had to work pretty hard on my skills to be able to get to where they are now.
12th of January 2016. You play for Australia in a one-day international. How do you find out you're going to play for Australia?
I actually can't remember.
Right.
I remember, I was at the Wacker. Me and Joel Paris debuted in the same game.
Playing India.
Playing India, yeah.
Rohit Sharma made 171 from 161. Sorry, Scotty.
Yeah.
Virat Kohli made 91.
Yeah.
You won. How do you bowl a Rohit Sharma when he's like that? I've just come back from the IPL and I just can't believe these blokes, how they just go from ball one.
Yeah.
So you're standing at the top of your mat ready to bowl to Rohit Sharma and you didn't come on, you didn't open the bowling, so he's probably on a few at this stage.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
It's intimidating.
Is it?
Yeah. And I do remember the game. I got my first 8 overs. I was happy with it. Like, didn't get a wicket, but I reckon I had 8 overs, none for 40.
Okay, it's good.
Yeah.
So with these numbers that are coming up.
Yeah. And then my last 2 overs went the journey.
Do you know what your figures were?
I reckon I would have went for 30 in my last 2 overs.
So you
70?
Yeah, none for 74 off 10.
Yeah.
Which records are there? The worst figures by a debutant Australian bowler ever in one-day international cricket. Now, the game has changed significantly. So with fielding restrictions, etc., it used to be, in Simon O'Donnell's day, 10 overs, you went for 40, the score was 220. We're playing a different game now because you need to make, in Australia, over 300. So it's partly a reflection on the way the Indians batted, but also the way the game has changed. Yeah. Do you come away from that first one-day international thinking, holy heck, this is not me? Or, no, I've bowled 8 overs all right here. Yeah. This is something I can do.
Yeah, I still came out of the game feeling like I only missed 5 balls at the end in the last 2 overs.
Okay.
But they went for 6. So
Rohit and Virat tend to do that. Like, I guess that's the step, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's the thing I was telling myself is I'm not missing by that far in these deliveries, but these batters are so good, and the wicket was really nice that when you step up to the next grade, the batters are better. Your margin of error is even smaller. I don't even reckon I dominated in domestic one-day cricket then. So going up to the next level when you're playing Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli, MS Dhoni, the margin of error is tiny.
What separates these guys? What separates superstar players rather than just really, really good international players?
I think it's got to be obviously the way they're trained. They train really specifically for the game they're about to play. I've watched Smith and Marnus over the last 2 years, and they're probably guys who like to hit a lot of balls, and we've also got other guys who are very good players that just don't like to hit as many balls. They just want to feel good. But
Uzi?
Yeah, Uzi and guys like Trav Head, like they've had awesome 2 years, but everyone can train differently. But yeah, I think it's their mindset. Like they go in thinking they're going to dominate, and more often than not they do. You can't just go, oh, I'm just going to dominate this game and you can do it. There's got to be a period of time where you build up to that, where you have a good game here. Like, even for me, I had a good game here and there.
Yep.
Still didn't feel overly confident, but these guys, I think the superstars are wired a bit different, where they only have to do it once and they know they can they think they can do it all the time, and they can.
You're killing it in Shield cricket. Sheffield Shield Player of the Year, 18-19, 48 wickets at under 20. You win the Sheffield Shield. Then at age 32, we get to the Ashes of 2021. How do you find out you're involved at this point? It's a phone call?
Yeah. So if I remember correctly, I reckon during that winter, George Bailey just come on as chairman of selectors. Yeah. And he gave me a call. So I thought it was out of the blue, saying, like, you're going really well, keep taking wickets, and you might find yourself sort of in the mix. And I was like, oh, okay. And then spoke to him again a few weeks later, and he's like, there's a test against, this is during COVID as well, so there's a test against Afghanistan in Hobart. The World Cup squad, the T20 World Cup squad will come back and they won't make it out of quarantine in time. So you might be a chance to play this game. And I was like, righto. So it gave me a bit more motivation for the back end of our pre-season. And then we went into a COVID bubble in, I think it might have been Adelaide. Oh, well, we're in COVID bubbles anyway, so we're playing, training. And then that series the test against Afghanistan got called off, so I thought, no.
That flatten you when you read the news?
Yeah, I was like, I probably won't get a chance now. I reckon I went back to play Big Bash for Hobart, played 1 or 2 games, and then went for a wee at 2 o'clock in the morning, had a missed call on my phone from George Bailey at 2 o'clock. And I was like, right.
He rang you at 2, or that's when you saw the missed call?
So he rang me at, I saw it about 2, and I had a missed call like late at night.
Right.
So I was like, oh, I need to get back to this.
Yes. Yes, you do, Scotty.
Yeah. So I reckon I'd text him at that stage saying, everything all good. And he's like, something's happened in Adelaide, we're going to need you to come. So I had no idea. He's like, I'll speak to you in the morning. I was like, yep, fine. So I woke up at 6, up early, wanted to get this phone call out of the way. And it was like Lyon, Stark, Cummins being caught up in a COVID drama
At a
restaurant.
At a restaurant, and someone had tested positive.
Yeah.
The craziness of the world we were living in. Yeah.
So he's like, you're going to have to get on a plane to come to Adelaide. And even just before I board, he's like, we're still not sure on the ruling, so you might be playing. So I'm like,
before you're getting on the plane?
Yeah, so it's like 10 minutes before I get on the plane. So I'm sitting on the plane.
So is this day before?
Day of the game.
Day of?
So it's day-night game. So I'm flying in the morning of the game.
Day-nighter.
Yeah.
And George's ring said you might be in when you get off the plane. Yeah. But we don't know.
But we don't know yet. So I'm sitting on the plane, like, so nervous. I sweated the whole way there, thinking, geez, I could be debuting here.
That's a long flight.
Yeah. An hour and a half. Felt like it went forever. But then, landed and then got the message saying, not required. Stark and Lyon are all good.
So how do you feel when you get the message?
Relieved.
Relieved.
Yeah.
So it's not shattered, it's relieved.
No, I was like, I think my preparation was 0.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was sort of relieved that, or even looking back now, I couldn't picture my debut any other way.
So then the next test match we get to Melbourne.
Yeah.
What happens in Melbourne?
Or even so, at the end of the test in Adelaide, George said, you're going to be a really good chance to play in Melbourne. And so I was like, oh, okay, that's good to know. So I get to Melbourne, family had to come into the bubble by doing all these COVID tests and stuff like that. So they finally got into the bubble and could stay at the hotel. And I reckon so Christmas Eve was our main training session. I reckon I bowled the worst I bowled in a net session for 5 years. Because
of what was potentially ahead, or it just wasn't your day?
No, it just wasn't my day. Like I still was hoping to play, but wasn't thinking about that. But then I sort of walked away going, oh, I'm not going to play after that.
And is bowling bad in the nets when you're bowling to Smith and Labuschagne and Head? Is that just not bowling well in your mind, or is that getting smacked?
It's not bowling well in my mind, but I wasn't even in bowling in the first 2 main groups. I was bowling in the last group to would have been whoever the spare batter was.
Right.
And the bowlers.
Okay.
And I was,
So like the rest of your career, you're still a fair way back here.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm done. Like, I'm not going to play. Like
You're done again.
I told Dad earlier in the like days before, I'm like, I think I'm a chance to play. And then I texted him after that. I was like, no, I'm not going to play.
And then?
And then, so it was like, it might have been 4 or 5 hours after the training that night.
So still Christmas Eve?
Yeah, Christmas Eve. We're staying at the team hotel in Melbourne. Tony Doddermaid sent me a message saying, can we meet downstairs? And I was like, yep, I'll come down now. And I was like, I said to Daff as I was walking out, I'm still not sure if I'll play, but see how we go. They might just be calling everyone. So I go down there and he's like, so I've known him for a while because he was CEO at Cricket Victoria, but he's not like outgoingly, like doesn't show much emotion.
So it's you without much emotion, Tony without much emotion for what is potentially going to be an emotional moment.
Yeah, so it was a slow start to the conversation. And then, he just sort of said, he's like, well, without too much emotion, he's like, you're going to play? And I was like, I'm playing. He's like, yep. He's like, shook my hand, spoke for a few minutes, and I was like, oh, shit, how good's that?
Wow.
So I go upstairs. I was like over the moon, excited. Told my wife, who was Daff, she was over the moon. Then the kids, 3.5 and 1.5 at this stage, so they got no idea.
No idea.
So me and Daff are laughing and hugging, and the kids are just like, what is going on? Like, I told them I'm playing, but obviously they don't care. They don't know what it is.
Did you ring your dad?
Yeah, rang Dad straight away.
How was that?
Yeah, he was, over the moon. Yeah, so it was a nice few minutes. And then I think the next morning, Pat announced that I was going to play and my phone went nuts.
Did it?
Yeah, so family, friends, people I haven't connected with for years. Yeah, just it didn't stop.
How many ticket calls did you get?
A lot. I reckon I was already up for a few, being a Melbourne test, but it didn't stop once they knew I was going to play.
So you're faced with an interesting dilemma here because it's Christmas Day and it's Christmas lunch. Yeah. Always the best meal of the year. You're a man, I presume, who likes to spend some time at the lunch or the dinner table. Yeah. How do you approach Christmas dinner knowing tomorrow's the day?
Yeah.
Like, do you just hoe into everything or you just keep the reins on it a bit, Scotty?
Oh, I reckon that Christmas Day was a nightmare.
Was it?
My family were coming into the bubble.
Okay.
Then we weren't allowed to go have lunch with all the other families.
Oh.
So there was a group of us of maybe 15, 20 that we had to have lunch by ourselves.
So isolated within the isolation.
Yeah. So we couldn't get ticked off from the whoever was running the COVID stuff to go have lunch with everyone else. So we're waiting around. We end up sitting in this room at Crown where there was no food there yet. They're like, it's going to get ticked off soon.
Oh, no.
If these tests come back negative, you're in. And they're like, it'll be an hour. So we're sitting there for hours. And they got to the stage, we're there for a few hours. The kids are going nuts. And me and Daff were like, why don't we just go back to the hotel? We can relax. We'll just get some room service. And then, we can just chill out by ourselves instead of sitting in this room.
So that was Christmas lunch, room service?
Yeah.
What'd you go with?
I can't remember now, but...
The spag bowl special?
Probably, yeah.
the club sandwich or the chicken Caesar?
It would have been a club sandwich.
That's right. So you wake up, we've detailed your journey from a batsman to a part-time bowler to a bloke that was struggling to playing for Frankston, playing for Victoria, working in a pub, not believing it. Do you sleep the night before?
I slept pretty well, I remember.
And not only that, you're a Victorian and it's Boxing Day.
Yeah.
And it's the Ashes.
Yeah.
So it's not going to get any bigger
in
your career than that first day, is it really?
No, it was, I reckon as soon as I woke up, I was sweaty, nervous, probably hardly spoke at breakfast with the family. But, obviously Daff knows when I'm nervous and stuff, but she just, wished me luck. We got to the ground. So only Daff and the kids could come on the ground for the hat presentation.
Yep.
So Josh Hazelwood presented my hat.
And another bloke that's not overly talkative.
Yeah.
What do you go with the big man?
I can't really remember too much of what he said, but it was nice getting my hat from him. Even though he's younger than me, but he's obviously played a lot of cricket for Australia. My last probably 4 or 5 years, I've always looked up to him, even though he's younger than me, as a bowler that I want to try and replicate. So it was nice to put in some I don't know, I guess some hard yards in the nets and still learn stuff off him, and then he's able to give me my hat.
Do you reckon they've gone like they've gone the quiet chaps for the quiet chaps, like they've got Dottermaid to tell you, then they've got Hazelwood to hand it over. They've got similar style of emotional customers, I reckon, Scotty.
Yeah. They didn't want anyone to get too excited.
National anthem. So it's packed. We're out of COVID. I can remember it being badged in some ways as, the Melbourne coming out. There was still COVID floating around, but we could go to the cricket again.
Yeah.
So the national anthem, which is always my favourite part of Boxing Day, what are you taking anything in, or are you just thinking they've had the toss at that stage, haven't they?
Yeah, well, won the toss and bowled.
Yeah, so you're not far away now. Yeah. So are you wanting them to win the toss and bat or bowl?
No, I wanted to bowl.
You want us to get it out of the way?
Yeah, I just wanted to get into some action.
Right. So how are you taking in the anthem and the size of the crowd and the event and the occasion?
Yeah, I was probably thinking this could be my only chance to play test at the G.
Yep.
So I wanted to try and take everything in. Had guys like Nathan Lyon who he's probably played in 10 Boxing Day tests.
Yep.
So just tell me to soak it up. And then knowing that we're going to start bowling soon, my nerves started to get to me then.
And then how does Paddy, age-old cricket, you look across at the captain, he starts rolling his shoulders to you, that you're on. Is that what happens at Test cricket?
Yeah, pretty much.
Right.
He's bowling at the time, so he's like, warm up, you're on the next over. And I was like, righto. So I sort of went through my warm-up routine. I remember getting the ball at the top of my mark, and I always sort of do a run-through.
Yep.
So I ran through, got the ball back, and then they announced that I was bowling, and the crowd's gone nuts.
Well, it's a Victorian, the MCG.
Yeah.
It's Warney, it's Merv, it's Rifle, it's Siddle, it's Boland.
Yeah, and also I've had Nathan Lyon come past and say, good luck, hopefully you can join the wicket on your first ball club.
Which he got when he got Sangakkara.
Yeah, and then I had Dave Warner come past going, don't shit yourself. So it was almost comforting that he did say that.
And so your first crack at Test cricket bowling, 1 for 48 off 13. How did you view it? Like we've heard about the ticks and the crosses. How many ticks are you getting in that 13 overs, do you reckon? What percentage of ticks?
Probably a lower percentage.
Okay. Why? Because it just wasn't your day because of the size of the event?
Yeah, I was nervous. I remember I reckon I bowled 6 to 8 overs in the first spell. And I remember walking off down the race at the G at lunch, and I was so relieved to get off the ground. It was funny. All I'd wanted to do for the last 10, 15 years was play Test cricket, and then I was like, geez, I just want to get off. I need to go sit down and just sort of recoup. And then sort of got inside. Andrew McDonald was the assistant coach at the time, so I've done a fair bit of work with him at Victoria, and he just sort of said, I feel like you're bowling a bit safe. Don't just try and put the ball in a good spot. Back your skills that you're going to put it there. Be brave and just sort of let it all go. And I reckon I've probably taken that message from that day to every game I play into now that I know my skills are good enough. I've prepared the way I want to prepare 2 days out from a game. That if I run in and do what I need to do, the ball's going to go where I want it to go and where I need it to go.
First Test wicket?
Mark Wood, LBW.
Did he review?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you think you've got him?
I thought I had him, yeah. I reckon he might have thought that it hit him outside the line, but I knew it hit him and then his knee moved. So I was confident. But
so what's that process like, Scotty? It's the first 100 or the first Test wicket that you've ever dreamed about. Yeah. You get it and you celebrate it and the boys rub your hair like crazy. Yeah. And then you see the batsman and it's like, what is that process like as a modern cricketer?
Yeah, it was, even though I still thought it was out, I was like, something could happen here. Could bowl no ball. Or,
so when he reviews it, you're like, oh no.
Yeah, I was like, oh no, this couldn't be not out. Still might not get a wicket. And yeah, I reckon Paul Rifle was the umpire, so he gave it out. And then I reckon I spoke to him. I made a gesture to him was I over the line? No ball. He's like, nah, definitely not no ball. So I was like, righto, this should be fine. And then the guys behind the stumps are always have their opinion about what they think. And I remember Smith being like, "No, it's hit him in line. It's going to be fine. It's not going to go over."
And the feeling, what are your feelings when, stick with your original decision, Paul?
Yeah.
You're on camera. Away you go. What does it mean to you for the journey you've come on?
Yeah. Well, even 2 months prior to that, I didn't think I was going to play Test cricket. So, I was over the moon, and to do it out at the G, and have my family and friends there was so cool.
Scotty, I've got a couple of young kids, and those that are most invested love to ask a question to the guest.
Yes.
So I know generously you've listened to some of the podcasts, so you know what's coming your way.
Yeah.
But my young bloke's obsessed with cricket.
Yeah.
They just do these, especially him now. He just does what he wants to do. And when he first started, he was like you. So he was 3, but he's very quiet, very shy. Now, as you'll hear, he's really let himself go in the questioning department.
Yeah.
So this is Mako, the big penguin, to you, Scotty.
Yep.
Hey Scotty, big penguin here. 6 for 7. They are crazy stats. No one, not even in my under-13s team, has got that. Let alone in the Boxing Day Test match. Anyway, Scotty Boland got 6 for 7 at the G. Build the man a statue. How that crazy commentator? Who is that guy? Build the man a statue. How many people have said that to you, Scotty? Build the man a statue.
How many times you heard it?
Oh, thousands, I reckon.
Like on the street? Like, what happens?
In the street. I remember even in India, we're walking up the stairs in Ahmedabad Stadium's 130,000 seats.
Yep.
There's one Australian guy in this crowd of Indian supporters, and he screams out, "Build the man a statue." Like, it's, very frequent. Even on social media, I get messages and notes and stuff all the time of build the man a statue, and people sending through voice notes of them commentating. So
and the Shepmates did it, and I think that took it to a whole nother level. So people send you messages of them commentating that line, do they?
Yeah, they'll just say like, "Build the man a statue," like, or they'll write it in a message, things like that. So it's pretty cool.
It's very hard to talk about this, without being self-indulgent, because obviously I was in commentary at the time, and I was really fortunate that I was there for all 6 wickets. The bit that gets me is Hussey, when he's like he is Mr. Analytical. He's a passionate man, but he's understated, and I can still remember him looking at me and Vaughnie and saying, "What is happening here, Howie?" Yeah. It was we couldn't conceive what was going on, but Scotty, I haven't. I always wanted to tell you this story. I've never had the chance. So we stay up the road, up near the Hilton, as you do, and then walk down through the MCG Parklands to get to the match each morning. Yeah. And you walk around the MCG concourse. And I was a little bit early, which was unusual for me. And I sort of did a lap of the MCG before walking in there. Melbourne boy, your home ground, you're working at the Test match. It's really, really cool. Yeah. You're sitting next to these legends of the game, and you walk around, and there's the Lee Matthews statue, and then you go past Warnie's statue. And I remember walking in there thinking to myself that morning, I wonder of the current Australian Test team if they will ever put a statue outside the MCG of any of these guys, and if so, who would it be? And the one that came into my head was Steve Smith, because of the standard of cricket he's played. Yeah. Not a Victorian, but so it was rumbling around the back of my head, and that's my only explanation as to why it came out at the time. And it was one of those things when you say it and you go 2 minutes later and you think, oh no, what have I said here? And then rightly or wrongly at some stage you look on social media and you think, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay, it's resonated.
People are happy.
Yeah, people are happy with it. It's not a bloody disaster. And I can only think that's why it was in my head. So for you to tell me there's blokes in Ahmedabad, where I was a couple of weeks ago, yelling it out to you, it's cool.
Yeah. I reckon first time I heard it was we were in the rooms after the game having a beer. Travis Head was sitting next to me and he's like, "You got to listen to this."
Right.
audio.
Right.
So we watched the wickets, and he's like, "This is the bit," and it comes up, and that was the first time I heard it was in the room. So since then, I've heard it a million times, I reckon.
So we've just talking about the highest of high. What's it like at the elite level when you're sitting in the change rooms and the test team is getting bowled out for 51 and batsman after batsman are walking in? We've seen a little bit of it through the Amazon Amazing Test Series. The test, what's it like when you're playing for your country and the wheels are falling off in a spectacular fashion?
Yeah, it's hard, and you can almost see it happening before it happens. Like India, a team in India that if they get on a roll, like we've seen it so many times on TV watching other nations play over there, that if they get on a roll, they're so hard to stop. And we knew that going into the series that we didn't want to try and give them back-to-back wickets if possible. And yeah, even in the first innings, we're going all right. I reckon we might have been 2 for 90, and then I think Marnus and Smith get out within about 5 overs, and we sort of fall over there. In the
It's like you're putting the kids to bed, and you come back out,
it's done.
and it's like, I hope Smithy's still batting. Oh, we're 8 for.
Yeah,
It happens that fast.
yeah, and they're conditions we never seen before. I think the preparation leading up to that tour was almost perfect. Like we had conditions in Sydney that were very spinny. We had a 10-day prep where the nets and the centre wickets we had over there were perfect. We had net bowlers, like young Indian net bowlers who were very good spinners. But yeah, once you get into a proper game facing Ashwin Jadeja, it's totally different.
What's the perfect next 3 years for you? Like, where does your test... When we sit back in 5 years and say, Scotty, this was your test career, what do you want it to say?
Hopefully I can play a few more tests. I've got 7 now, so I'm hoping to play in as many as I can.
Yep.
I've sort of given up the opportunity to not play. I've sort of told myself not to play county cricket to keep my body nice and fresh. I want to prolong my career as long as I can. Like I'm 34 now, so I still feel like I'm in a really good spot where I can play for another few years. And yeah, even last year I didn't take a big bash contract to try and prolong my summer that way by having a rest in those 3 weeks where I could have played big bash instead of flying around the country and playing a few games. I sort of said no to the money to try and get my body in a really good spot to be fresh for India and then for the next 6 tests coming up. So hopefully I can have an impact in the Ashes and then have another home summer where I can hopefully play another test at the MCG.
What advice would you give from your experiences?
From my experiences, I think probably in any sport or way of life that I like to be really prepared for what I'm going to do in the next little bit. So I think preparation is definitely key, and then you can perform in any way that you need to perform. I think by having great preparation, you can give yourself the confidence to perform in any facet of life.
It's a great description. I don't think I've ever had a guest come in and say they had a sleepless period, being stressed about coming on the show. What's the experience been like? Is this the longest interview you've ever done?
It would be, but it's been very comfortable. Thank you very much for that.
Mate, thanks for coming in.